Market. Farmers Market.
Attorneys General announced they've reached a $26 billion settlement to combat the opioid epidemic. The deal was struck with the nation's three largest opioid makers and pharmaceutical giant Johnson & Johnson. The four companies have been accused of fueling the opioid epidemic and downplaying the addiction risk. Maggie, briefly tell us more about this deal. What does it involve?
Well, I mean, these deals are meant to repay the states for everything they have spent in fighting the opioid epidemic crisis. It costs Medicaid a huge amount of money to treat people, and the states are on the hook for most of that. But of course, the bigger problem is that these companies have figured out that these are really popular drugs, and they have pushed them hard. They've pushed them hard as safe, as effective, and just try going to any doctor with any kind of pain and talk them out of prescribing you an opioid. They're very effective, and people ask for them. So the argument is that the companies have exploited this.
The Raleigh Farmers Market.
Well, just how addictive these drugs were and what opioid use could lead to, and marketed these drugs anyway. The fee, the effects, the opioid deaths are spiraling through the roof. The pandemic made it even worse. We had a 30% increase in drug overdose deaths in 2020. People take these pills once or twice and can very quickly become addicted to them. Not everyone, but there's a significant proportion of the population who will become addicted to these drugs with a very small exposure to them.
Now, we should say that every state is not on board. West Virginia's Attorney General announced he's rejecting the deal, along with Washington State's Attorney General. So what happens next?
Well, if you're not in on the deal, then you've got to negotiate your own settlement. These things drag out for years and years, but the states are obviously looking for the deep pockets of these companies to reimburse them even more. And it does cost states a lot. These companies are going to end up having to pay a lot of money to make up for this damage.
That's Maggie Fox. She's a senior health editor with CNN. Maggie, thanks for joining us.
Always a pleasure.
And as Maggie said, the opioid epidemic has been made worse by the COVID-19 pandemic. In 2020, a record number of people overdosed due in part to isolation and interrupted treatment services. We're going to talk about this